recovery tip number 7. Build your team. In some cases, most cases, my experience, my own personal experience, what does that mean? It ain't comfortable. Because for me, it meant dismantling the entire team pre getting clean, right? So everything, and here's why, right? Because when I was in my insanity, the people I had around me contributed to that insanity. Whether it was like, yeah, you tell me, girl, where, when, we're gonna get it. We're gonna, okay, meet you at the pawn shop. Okay, yeah, let's go get him. If he fucked you out, okay. Like, so they weren't the necessary reason that I was a thriving drug addict at this point, but the environment and the people who I had in my life contributed to keeping me there, right? In some way, shape, or form. And so when I got clean, I took the principles of NA literally to heart, right? And so people, places, things. So when I came out of rehab, man, I like packed up whatever little possessions I had. I packed up my children and I moved across the country to create a new environment with no associations. I didn't know anybody. And let me tell you something, that can make you feel isolated all by itself. And for a portion of time, that may be the case because everything that I knew before that was now gone, right? But the dismantling, there's one person left in that, right? Me. I was the commander of all of that before I got clean. I'm still the commander in all of it after I got clean. So the change had to start with me, right? I had to be willing to do some things different. I had to be willing to be guided and directed, to be led, to be open to feedback, suggestions. You know, for example, 90 meetings in 90 days. I didn't do no 90 meetings in 90 days, okay? But I did do 3 to 4 consistent meetings weekly for the first 18 to 24 months of my recovery. Now, when I first got clean, yeah, I felt, man, it's just me against the whole world, right? It was just me. So I had to do some internal changes first and foremost, right? Because I wasn't a good commander. So that started, obviously. But then what happens when you put yourself in new situations with like-minded people who are, for example, if I'm in the recovery rooms, well, these people are also pursuing recovery. So naturally, alliances are made, right? So now if I'm struggling, I'm gonna have a hard day and I really want to pick up, well, now I have people to call. Now I have people who will meet me at a meeting or take me for a coffee or whatever, right? So you're building these new alliances and these new associations. But then again, all the like programming that I did, like I've done extensive parenting classes, like preventing domestic violence, like getting out of all those things. So I'm connecting with mothers, I'm connecting with counselors and all different kinds of things. So now fast forward to 7 years almost clean and sober. My entire team, and here's why you need a team, right? You need a team because on the days where you ain't gonna be able to do it, and trust me, them days gonna come, where you're at the end of yourself and you just have fucking nothing left to give, your team will carry you. Your team will put the barrier in place. Your team will support you. Your team will pray over you, encourage you, love you, you know, because every single one of us have a limit, right? So for example, let me tell you what it looks like now. If I'm struggling with emotional thing, and it's one thing we don't really talk about, there's 4 quadrants. So I already talked about a higher power, which is my spiritual component, but then there's these other portions, right? So my emotional, my mental, and my physical. So my mental and emotional, they can kind of tie in, and I can use the resources for both. But this is why it's important to have mentors, or sponsors, or spiritual advisors, or a woman's group, pastors in my case. So there's all these different people, right? So I check in with counselors. I've probably checked in 6 of the 7 years I've been in recovery. I've checked in with somebody consistently throughout that time for different reasons. One of them being is my heart space. You know, I need competent helpers who can help me process my trauma, my pain, my disappointments, you know, my losses, my griefs, all those kinds of things, right? And so just taking responsibility for that, and calling on the necessary team members when they're necessary. If I'm on, like, I feel like I'm going to pick up today, I ain't necessarily going to call the counselor, right? I'm going to call somebody in NA who's working the program, who has clean time, who can talk me off the ledge. You know, if I'm having a spiritual dilemma and I'm not understanding, or I'm stuck somewhere, I'm going to call a pastor or a mentor or a sister in the Lord, you know? So this is like, collectively, the team gives you recovery, right? Because there's only so much power I have, only so much limitations I have. And when I'm at the end of them, I call on my team, and the right team will ensure that your recovery stays intact.